Please. Please stop.
When I look at what Renny Harlin is attempting with the Strangers trilogy, it's clear this isn't just another sequel strategy. It's a structural gamble. Instead of treating each movie as a separate chapter with its own beginning and end, all three films are designed to feel like one continuous nightmare. One event, one pursuit, one woman who cannot escape without becoming something else. The newest trailer makes that intention unmistakably clear. This story is no longer just about being hunted. It's about what survival demands in return. The trilogy reaches its conclusion with The Strangers, Chapter 3, which arrives in theaters on February 6th. From everything shown so far, this final chapter doesn't promise relief. It promises reckoning. Lionsgate describes the film as a brutal confrontation where Maya, played by Madeleine Petsch, faces the masked killers one last time in a vicious cycle of survival and revenge. And that word cycle matters. This isn't about escaping the violence. It's about being trapped inside it long enough that escape might no longer be possible. What makes Harlin's approach so unusual is that he isn't reinventing the core idea of The Strangers. He's expanding it. The terror no longer unfolds over a single night. It stretches across multiple days, blurring together into something that feels endless. The chase never truly stops. The fear never resets. To understand why this feels different, it helps to look back. The original The Strangers, directed by Brian Bettino, followed a couple, played by Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman, who retreat to a remote house after an uncomfortable marriage proposal. Their night unravels when a stranger knocks on the door asking if Tamara is home. What follows is harassment, intimidation, and violence, with no motive beyond chance. They were home. That was enough. The sequel, The Strangers Prey at Night, relocated the terror to an abandoned trailer park, this time targeting a family. While it reused the iconic masks and the same sense of random cruelty, the narrative connection between the two films was minimal. Each stood on its own. Harlin's trilogy rejects that structure entirely. Rather than rebooting or loosely continuing the franchise, he treats the concept as a prolonged case study. In an earlier interview, Harlin explained that a straightforward remake or sequel wouldn't have interested him at this stage in his career. What drew him in was the opportunity to examine violent crime from both sides. The victims, the perpetrators, and the psychological transformation that happens when survival stretches on too long. That idea sits at the heart of this trilogy. The new trailer strongly suggests that Maya can't simply run anymore. If she wants to live, she may have to participate in the violence. That shift fundamentally changes the dynamic. The strangers were once defined by their control and anonymity. Now, the line between hunter and hunted begins to erode. One line from the trailer captures this perfectly. Years later, Maya is described as the only survivor. The question is asked, why her? And the answer is chilling in its indifference. Does there need to be a reason? That exchange doesn't just echo the philosophy of the original film. It pushes it further. Survival itself becomes suspect, almost accusatory. The Strangers Chapter 3 completes the story that began with The Strangers, Chapter 1, and continued through The Strangers, Chapter 2. Watching them back to back transforms the experience. What might have felt repetitive becomes suffocating. There is no reset button, no safe distance between films. Harlin has always been a prolific genre filmmaker, known for projects like Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, Deep Blue Sea, and A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, but here his style feels stripped down. Less spectacle, more pressure. The violence isn't flashy, it's persistent. The cast for the final chapter includes Gabriel Basso, Ema Horvath, Pablo Sandstrom, and Richard Brake alongside Petsch. The trailer hints at distorted perspectives, shifting truths, and a growing uncertainty around identity, who the killers really are, and what they represent. As secrets begin to surface, the distinction between reality and danger collapses. Every decision Maya makes now carries weight. Survival is no longer passive, it's deliberate, and it comes at a cost. This is what makes Chapter 3 feel less like a finale and more like a confrontation with the entire premise of The Strangers. The franchise has always thrived on randomness. on the terror of being chosen without reason. Now it asks a darker question. What happens when the victim outlasts the terror? And what does that survival turn them into? The Strangers Chapter 3 doesn't promise answers that will feel comforting. It promises an ending that completes the cycle: survival, revenge, and the realization that sometimes escaping the nightmare means carrying it with you. And that might be the most disturbing ending of all. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments. This is where these kinds of films come to life. Until the next story, stay curious, be critical, keep your eyes on the screen, and remember, every film you haven't seen is a new film.